Okay, so this is Unit 3.6 of the IGCSE 0455 Economics, and we're looking at firms and production. So just to recap, what are the 4 factors of production? See if you can answer this. The 4 factors of production. I hear footsteps. They're coming my way. I must put on the mask. Hello, Jacques. I am putting on the mask.
Which class
I am in the middle of a video, so... Video, yes, sir.
Which class?
It will be for the year 9s and the year 10s,
Okay,
Jacques.
9s, okay.
I'm just waiting for them to tell me the 4 factors of production,
Okay.
and yeah. Well, thank you very much.
Okay, just came to see if you're still okay.
I am okay, thank you, sir.
Okay.
Good. So we have our 4 factors of production, and you will be telling me they are land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. Now, a decision for a firm to make is which factors of production they're going to use. Now, when I was, I'm thinking, yeah, probably when I was your age, my father was a metallurgist and he took a job in South Africa. Now, in South Africa, we have labor-intensive processes. If you look at the cost of labor, many firms would do things by hand rather than put in big capital machines. Whereas in Europe, chances are you would have a machine doing a job that could be done by hand. My father was involved in a foundry that made sand castings. They would, out of a wax, make the pattern of the casting, pack sand around it, melt the wax, and then they've got gaps in which to pour the steel. Once the steel had solidified, then you have to get rid of the sand. In South Africa, they would knock it off with hammers. In Europe, they will shake it with a machine. So in this particular slide, we're looking at influences of demand for factors of production. Well, the demand for the product. If there is a demand for a certain product, for example, the mobile phone, notebooks, laptops, iPads, they all need batteries. So there will be a demand for the materials used in batteries due to the various of electronic products that are on the market. Then what else could be an influence? The availability of the different factors of production. If we've got a lot of labor, chances are the cost of labor would be low, yeah, and we would utilize more labor than, say, capital. Yeah. Sometimes materials become scarce, so we substitute the material. For example, I did get a little bit pocket watch. I showed the pocket watch, but if you can hear, that isn't the sound of glass. No, that is the sound of plastic. In fact, lots of things that used to be made of steel or glass tend to be made nowadays of plastic. If I tap very gently the Lenovo ThinkPad, I am getting a very plasticky sound. Yeah. If I think back, many of video recorders, which obviously replaced by the DVD player. When I was young, they used to be made of steel, the outer side of them. If I think of my motor car, I used to have an old Volkswagen Beetle, and there was no real dashboard. It was steel. Yeah. And I had a friend who had an old Alfa Romeo, and there the dashboard was wood, and the stick, the gear stick was also wood, and it was a beautiful little car. But nowadays they're all plastic, 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 plastic. Sometimes plastic made to look like wood. Go figure. But when we have availability, and also leads on to the next one, the price of the different factors of production. It's so much cheaper to make things out of plastic than to make things out of wood or steel. Yeah. Another one is the productivity of the different factors of production. Is maybe quicker, more efficient to make things out of plastic. Well, we'll come to the idea of productivity later, but let's have a look at the question, what is production? We met the idea of production in the term that we did Unit 1, right at the beginning of the year, the academic year. Well, at some stage, somebody made this cup, and somebody made this. Where's it? Where's that? This cup. This cup. Both functional cups. Um, this cup has the input of steel, some kind of steel. It is a enameled cup. So they would take the steel, they would make it into the shape, they would enamel, they would put the little picture on, and the cup is ready. The input of steel would combine with the input of paint, would combine with the input of labor, possibly a machine. Yeah? And this one is some kind of ceramic. So there would be some kind of clay, it would be molded with labor into the shape of the cup. They would put some kind of, I forget the name, you probably know, it's not paint, but it's something they put on it, and then they put it into a oven and it comes out like a cup. Yeah, so they are, and I'm going to look at the definition. It could be defined as an organized activity of transforming resources into finished products in the form of a good or service. So we have our inputs, and they're transformed through the process of production into outputs. Yeah, so that's production for you. We have at home a little bread machine, and you feed the little bread machine some bread mix, and you put in some water, and it switches itself on, and it mixes the bread, and it kneads the bread, kneading, kneading, knee. I am not sure of how to spell knee. It needs it anyway. It needs it. It like kind of squashes the dough, and then it encourages it to rise, and it gives it the requisite time, and then it will cook it. It will bake the bread in the machine. Yeah. The only thing is not so efficient because it will only bake one bread. Now, if I go to the bakery, the one near the river, is a walk of 700 meters, 800 meters. I will see they have got a very big oven. And in that oven, they will put many of breads, and they will get more breads cooked in an hour than I can cook at home. And In the supermarket, there will be bread that is being made in big factories where they will get even more bread produced in an hour. So, what is productivity? Well, productivity is a measure of efficiency of production. It can often be seen as a formula. So, productivity is the total output per period divided by the number of employees. Or it could be the total revenue, the total sales per total revenue divided by the number of employees. Quick reminder, total revenue is your price times your quantity. So a productive worker is one who is efficient in a production. Of course, machines could be even more efficient because machines rarely get bored. Think of specialization. Machines would work all night. Machines can be very quick. My goodness, that could have been embarrassing when I couldn't say need. Um, it's spelled Knead and is a process that is involved in bread making. Yes, so now that I've cleared that up, let's have a look at capital intensive versus labor intensive production. So the bread factory would probably use partially or fully automated production using machine. You can see some beautiful videos on YouTube where it shows a bottling factory. I saw one where they were making schnitzels in Germany. You can see where they will use machines to make sausages. Lots and lots of things are made these days using big machinery. Of course, if I'm picking tea, I might want to be more labor intensive. Sometimes it's tricky to use a machine. It's not the word we use feasible. It is not really possible. Some things they would if they are harvesting of olives, they may have a machine that shakes the tree, but they probably would use laborers to catch. Also depends the cost impact. It's lower setup costs to use labor. Labor is seasonal. With picking of wine or picking of wine, I mean picking of grapes or picking of vegetables. In Germany, they pick of asparagus. The British are picking strawberries. Yeah, and normally this is very labor intensive. People will be picking the strawberries. The machines may squash the strawberry where the people do not. However, if I'm in a capital intensive industry, I must realize it's very high setup costs. It costs a lot to build a factory that can make cars. It costs a lot even to make a factory that bakes and slices bread. An advantage of capital intensive is that the mass production lowers the average cost. Yeah. The labor intensive, you will get labor intensive in terms of, say, retail. I was at the local supermarket last Saturday. It was horrific. And I chose to do to go through the scanning machine. So I scanned all of my items, and then because I bought an alcoholic beverage, a lady had to verify my age. Go figure. And once they verified my age, all I had to do was just pay it with a card. However, the supermarket did choose a labor intensive because there were many tills which were manned by real people. And these real people would greet the customer and push the groceries through the hand, beep, 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 and then ask them all sorts of things like, do you have a card? How would you like to pay? And so on. Um, Now, labor needs breaks. Sometimes I was at the shop today because I'd forgotten to pack sandwiches, and I bought some pickles. And it was a long, 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 long queue. And then the people in the shop shouted somebody to go and man the other till because somebody had taken a break. Yeah, we can't expect labor to work without a break. We can't expect labor to work continuously for 24 hours, but machines can. So I want you to take a look at the advantages and disadvantages of labor intensive versus capital intensive production and make a table that could be used in a comparison question. Ensure you have at least 4 advantages and 4 disadvantages for each production method. For example, an advantage of capital intensive is that the production is usually faster. An advantage of labor intensive production is that labor is more flexible. Yeah, is the possibility. Today I was making raisin bread at the bakery, and tomorrow they want me to make currant buns. Yeah, or they want me to make pretzels. Is the possibility I can do this? I could make biscuits. I could make a beautiful cake. In theory, not in practice. Now, if I have a biscuit machine, chances are all it can do is make biscuits. And if I have a bread machine, all it can do is make bread. I seem to be talking about food. So we remember our factors of production. Um, the factor land, natural resources. In agriculture, um, the fertility of land would determine its demand. Um, in retail, perhaps the location of the shop would be a determinant of demand. Okay, looking at the demand of labor, nice American spelling there. The demand of labor is influenced by the type of work, whether it's a manual task or a non-manual task. It's also determined by the skills, the skill level, and the experience of the labor involved. When it comes to demand of capital, one influence is the price of the capital goods. Uh, Capital goods are goods that are used to produce output. Yeah. So most firms might have some or other delivery vehicle. Um, but in terms of capital machinery, some capital machinery would be extremely expensive. Also, the profit level. If the business is profitable or very profitable, then chances are they can invest more, they can plow back some of their profits into capital machinery. At the confidence level. What do I mean by confidence level? Well, we'll look at that in macroeconomics. Is there business confidence? Is there consumer confidence? Are we expecting to sell lots of goods in the future? If so, we want to be producing lots of goods. So the general business confidence level, the price of other factors of production. In some lands, I will say USA, I will say certain places in Europe, the cost of the factor of production labor is relatively high. So people may prefer to put in some kind of capital machinery. I think in a previous slide I talked of vending machines in Japan. Japan, because of the price of labor, would try and mechanize things, even going to the extent of having little robots to do things for them. Very good. Now, advanced technology. At the moment, people are bringing in artificial intelligence and robotics, and with the hope that they would increase productivity. I was on the internet the other day and I had to prove that I was not a robot. I can't think of a way to prove that today, apart from I don't think we have the advancing technology needed to have a robot teacher. All right, so the idea of labor productivity. Well, average labor productivity is the average output per, let's call it man hour. Yeah. So here we got a little table, and if in June 2005, firm A spent 200 working hours per worker, and firm B spent 160 working hours. Well, in these 200 working hours, firm A produced 7,200, but firm B produces 6,400. Now, the higher production is firm A, but let's do some calculation. If you remember our formula, what I need to do is take the number of output and divide it by the number of working hours. And there I see that the average labor productivity from this simple example is 36 for firm A and 40 for firm B. So this tells me that firm B has a higher labor productivity than firm A. So, quick note, firms A's production is higher, but firm B's productivity is higher. So, were we to increase the working hours to 200 per worker for firm B, then their output units would rise to 8,000. So, firm B is more productive. So, if you enjoy calculations, then you will enjoy the next unit, Unit 3.7, and get to do a lot of calculations. In fact, even if you don't enjoy calculations, you will learn them to enjoy them in the next unit, for there will be a fair amount of calculation. But in this particular unit, Unit 3.6, a little table. Capital intensive versus labor intensive. Well, let's look at capital intensive is more equipment, more machinery, vehicles being used in production. It requires a high capital investment. The production process is usually or tends to be automatic, and change in production is costly and time consuming. When it comes to labor intensive, there are more people and labor used for production. There is a relatively lower capital investment. The production process is manual or tends to be towards manual, and the change in production is relatively easy and flexible. What do I mean by that? Well, if I have a machine to shake apples out of a tree, and if I have a machine to chop grapes from a grapevine, I can't really get the grapevine machine to pick the apples from the tree. If I were to modify the machine, it would be extremely time consuming. It would cost me a lot. However, if I have labor in the form of a person, it is relatively easy to tell the person, instead of picking apples from the tree today, go and pick me some grapes. In fact, rather than say pick me, the better word would be to say harvest. Yes, how good are you at harvesting grapes? I don't know, but I can pick apples. If I can pick an apple, I can pick an olive. If I can pick an olive, I can pick an orange. However, if I'm a machine that harvests grapes, well, nobody would be asking me these stupid questions, but the machine would be incapable of effectively picking oranges. You get my point. So, we know what productivity is. It's a measure of efficiency of production. How can firms increase productivity? Well, they can train the worker to improve skills and let the worker learn new skills. They can reward the worker. They could give a performance-related pay or bonus payments. They could encourage their employees to profit share. Example, if I've bought company shares or if I've been given company shares, then I would like to have my company being profitable. They could improve the work environment. I've seen places where they will have a company gym, a company restaurant. Wow, one place even had a company swimming pool and sauna. They can have a company coffee shop, all sorts of things to make the coming to work more beautiful, improve the work environment. They can make sure that they've got the most efficient of machineries, that they are utilizing new technology. They could encourage something called lean production, that we are trained in working practices that reduce waste, that improve quality, increase the speed, etc.